Hi guys, today I want to talk to you about a thing called inversions. Inversions are really important because they help us understand the most sensible way to change chords and lead to much more musical sounding chord progressions. So, what is an inversion? Well, essentially, if I play a root position triad like a C chord, I'll play it here, C, E and G. This is made up of the root, the third of that root and the fifth of that root. What I mean by that is if C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, so that's the third, F is the 4, G is the fifth. So C, E and G is the root, the third and the fifth. I can do that with any chord, F, A and C, A minor, C and E. Now, the reason that's a minor is because the distance from the root to the third is one semitone less, or one distance from one key to another. That's a semitone, that's a semitone, that's a semitone, that's a semitone. So if you notice in C, the C major chord, there's 3 spare keys in between. Okay, we'd call that, if we can measure the semitones, it's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whereas in the A minor chord, there's 2 spare keys, and we'd measure from that note 3. 1, 2, 3. So the distance between the root and the third in a major chord and a minor chord is slightly different. If I'm playing C and I want to make this a C minor, I just flatten the third. Okay, you can see now I've got the distance between this one. I've got 2 spare keys. I've got this C sharp and the D there. Yeah. Whereas in a C chord I've got 3. In a C major chord, when I say C, I'm implying it's C major. So where was I? So a chord is made up of the 1, 3 and the 5. An inversion is when you change the order of those notes. So we don't want to have chord progressions that just move like this, and move this shape around, okay, all the time. I know we did that in a previous video, and that's part of understanding how the chords work, but actually we want to try and do something a little more clever and a little more musical if we can, and that's where inversions come in. If I take this C, I can put it an octave higher. I can just put this note on the top of the chord and I've got E, G, C. And that's what we call C in its first inversion, or a first inversion chord, where the third is on the bottom. If I do the same thing again, I'll put the E on the top and I end up with this chord. So E is on the top, the fifth is on the bottom. So I went from C in its root position, C in its first inversion, C in its second inversion, okay, G, C and E. C, E, G, E, G, C, G, C, E. And then if I invert this chord again, I put this G on the top, back to the root position triad again, okay? Sometimes it's okay to use a root position triad, but I'm going to show you today how to think as like a keyboard player would. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a classic chord progression, C, G, A minor, F, and I'm going to put it down with just using, I've got a little drum beat here, and I'm just going to use root position triads, and we'll look at how much movement there is in the MIDI afterwards. Okay, so here we go, C. Okay, and I am going to just quantize them. So I'm going to quantize them to 8th notes, because that's could have been quarter notes. Could have been, actually, you could have quantized these to 1 note per bar. So that would be the quantized value of 1 to 1 as a whole, if you like. Okay, so I'm just lengthening these just to help you see distances. You can see how much movement there is between this chord and this one. There's a lot of leap. But actually, this is a G on the top, and this is a G on the bottom. So what would happen if I made them the same? Now, to just a little keyboard shortcut for you. If I want to take this up an octave, I hold Shift and push the up arrow, and it will leap up there. Now, this chord, this G is the same. This distance from this note to this note is much less. It is pretty small, and this is a semitone. It's very small, and this note stays the same. So where before we had this change, now we have this change. it's not immediately obvious, it depending on what speakers you're listening to or headphones you're listening to, but it is a much more musical change, and it's much more like what a keyboard player would do. A minor is fine as it is. Let's just look at this in here. So we've now gone, this is the C chord that I played, and then we went to G, keeping the G the same, the B and the D. Instead of doing that, we went to there. A minor is okay to go to like that, it's not a huge leap. But instead of going A minor to F, like that, I have to take this shape off, and I have to move my hand 2 keys to the left, and then play F. A and C are the same. F in an F chord, F, A and C, A minor, A, C and E. They're just different places. So why don't I keep the A and the C the same, and move this E to F? Instead of going, I can move like that. It's much more musical. So let's just see what that looks like. Again, I'm going to grab this note, and now I have this. Alright, so I'm just going to copy and paste that here for you, and we'll listen to them in isolation. And I'll just turn the drum beat down and the chords up so we can hear them. Let's listen to the first one again. I'll revert it. So this was the first one. Second one. They actually appear to be the same. Something went wrong there. Let's just let me fix that for the second one. Oh, what a shame that was. Let's see if we can look at both of them at once. Can we do that? Yeah, there we are. I know I did. I took them all up an octave by accident. Right, that should be right now. So let's have a look. Both are exactly the same chord progression, but one sounds more refined. The second one sounds more refined. There's a lot less movement, and it shows that the examiner that you have an understanding of writing parts for certain players. You might not be a piano player, but making a piano player do all this work, leaping from one chord to the next, is going to it shows a kind of level of understanding of chords, but this shows much more clear understanding of how parts should be written, and things move in step here. So it's also the same for string writing. So string players won't do huge, great big leaps per se. They'll often, if you're doing string accompaniment with chords, they'll move to the nearest note, and it will sound really, really nice if you can do that. So I hope that kind of makes inversions a little clearer. If you're not too sure how to do them, that's fine. Come and talk to me or Mrs. McGuire. But we can, if we lay out your chords and you're clear, one of the best ways to do it is to write out the notes that are in each chord. So I might write C, E, G here, and A, and this is a G chord, G, B, and D. No, the G would, and then I'd highlight the ones that are the same, and that will make everything really, really clear in terms of your chord progressions. Good luck with it.